Need Barack Obama's signature. Now, isn't that a disgrace? Yeah, he's going to give me a signature because what we want to do by prove by the negative that there's no records in the hospitals. He wasn't born there. So there's ways of doing it, and there's also ways we think. Oh, I guess you're aware of the fact that I'm sorry, he hasn't released his medical records. Yeah. He hasn't. 1 second. He hasn't released his medical. He hasn't released his records from Occidental College, from Columbia University, or Harvard Law School. And I came up with a theory about 3 weeks ago, and people are starting to think maybe that's why. I believe he hasn't released it, and it's not because of grades, because McCain released his grades from the Naval Academy, and he graduated 5th from the bottom. So I don't think it's, I think that's not the issue. I believe the records will indicate his nationality, either Kenya or Indonesia, and he probably applied for and received aid to go to school. That's the only reason I can see him not releasing those records. Yes, ma'am.
Is there a petition or something that we can sign that the people can stand behind you?
We might do that. People just suggest that the past few days. What's happened is this thing has...
just be in one person that the people can...
Well, this thing has just transpired so big. It's a major issue. That's a great suggestion. We'll think about that. But keep going to our website, Obama Crimes. Yes, ma'am.
Do you have an opinion as to why he really went to Hawaii last week? It wasn't just to see his grandma?
I really believe he went there probably to hug his white grandmother. To reinforce. I think it had something to do with, he keeps bringing up, no one else does, he keeps bringing up race throughout the campaign. I think that's why he went. I've been accused also of being a racist. I happen to be white, obviously. I also happen to be a paid-up life member of the NAACP. So next question. I mean, I think, you know, it's hard with the U.S. Constitution. Nothing more important, and if we can't agree to fight for that right now, and if the court must hopefully see that. Now, if they don't and don't want to have a hearing in the next few days, we will continue our fight through the Electoral College. Then we will be contacting perhaps any of you or any of the electors. Now we just hope what happens is no one wins on November 4th. You're actually voting for the electors from your state who meet the first or second week in December. They vote in each state capital and they send them down here to Congress, which opens them in the first or second week in January, which time the president is declared. But part of that is the person must be qualified. So unless the electors, see, the only problem you have, sometimes these are political people and they can't wait to get on the side of the person who's going to be president, and so they'll just, you know, stick with that person. But we're hoping that some of these electors just have the decency to say, we want to know that he or she, but in this case, he's qualified. Yes, sir.
Are you trying to postpone the election as opposed to just get him off the ballot? Is there a constitutional provision for postponing the election?
I'm asking Justice Souter, we're filing to ask for an injunction to put off the election until this issue can get resolved. Now, I know that's a major request, but I think it has to get resolved. Either they resolve it by next Monday, or they just hold the election. It's been done in the past. We have some case where it was done one time in the past. Because, in effect, people could be voting for someone who is not qualified. And like I say, there's 3 qualifications. He has 2. How hard is it? If I asked everyone in this crowd, is there anyone in this crowd who cannot get their birth certificate in the next week? Nobody. So what's the big deal?
That's right.
I mean, then what is he hiding? In most cases, lawyers, when we have cases and something happens, like if I was representing someone and they said, gee, they're accusing me of not being a citizen, I'd say, well, the best evidence is your birth certificate. Do you have it? And if they had it, I would say, here, I've printed it, because that would end the case. So if someone's not putting it up, and remember, it's long before the litigation. They put it on their campaign website in June of 2008. And that's significant because I didn't even get involved till August. And how I got involved, someone called me up and they started saying, have you heard about all this? And I said, yeah, a little bit. Read up on it. They said, we definitely know that he's not natural born. And you, Phil, happen to be the only attorney in the country with brass you-know-whats to take and fight this case. And I'm proud that I did, and I'm proud I'm involved in it. And I'm representing all of you. I'm representing all of you and your families and children and grandchildren, because there's nothing more important than our Constitution. Yes, ma'am.
The precedent for postponing an election? I know New York City postponed after 9/11, but that's the city level.
Well, what I'm alleging in our application to Justice Souter is the fact that people here want to be able to vote for a candidate that is qualified to take the office of president. And there's an unknown here. And the unknown brings us into this gray area. And the gray area is, if this person's not qualified, then who's he affiliated with and everything else. And why is he running, and what purpose, and things like that. And I think it's a homeland security issue. I think it's a national security issue.
Absolutely.
It's a major issue that has to get resolved, and that's what we're presenting to the court. That's a different document which we're filing. Yes, sir.
Yeah, has any other presidential candidate in history ever been required to publicly produce a birth certificate, any other document proving that they're a natural-born citizen?
I don't think there's been any other candidate for president who has had the audacity to file for president not being natural born, 14 years here and 35 years of age. There was a problem with Martin Van Buren. There was a question because he was born in a U.S. territory. Obviously, they resolved that problem. What should have occurred here, if I was representing Barack Obama and I thought it was a technical issue, 2 years ago, before he ran for office, he should have filed an action in court and saying, there's some technical issues here. When I was a minor, this happened, et cetera, et cetera. I want to clear the record. But he hasn't done that. He hasn't done that on anything. I mean, I love the Reverend.
You just said that the assumption is that there's never been
a
question before.
Well,
so the assumption has always been that someone that's been vetted by a major party has been a citizenship. So doesn't that switch the burden of proof onto you as the person that's challenging this assumption that's held in every other election in history?
No, actually, I think the burden has really shifted, and Judge Surik, I think, made a major error. In his opinion, he states that Barack Obama was, and there's nothing wrong with that, as long as you do it with all candidates. For whatever reason, I mean, this story has really not been in the mainstream media, and it should have been. It should have been all along. But they haven't done it, and why? He hasn't been vetted. When Reverend Wright came out, just an issue, when Reverend Wright came out in April of 2008, the issue, then we found out that on the day he announced his candidacy 21 months ago, what did he do? He prayed with Reverend Wright, but wouldn't bring Reverend Wright up on the platform with him. Obviously, he knew it was a problem. And what did he do that Friday night in April? He went on every cable TV station. What did he say? He said, I was never in a pew when Reverend Wright made those remarks. By a day and a half later, when he gave his famous race speech in Philadelphia, he slid a line in there. Most of you probably didn't even know it. He said, yes, I was in a pew when Reverend Wright made those statements which people are questioning. He just flows with the times. And I don't care about all those issues. It hurts me to go after a Democrat. But the basic thing here is the Constitution must be followed. For whatever reason, he's not producing records to indicate that he is natural born. And I submit, I wasn't around 50 years ago, 100 years ago with other candidates, but other candidates we've known, like where they've been born, we know families, they're vetted. For some reason, the national press has not vetted him at all. And I think I wish I could sue right now ABC, CBS, NBC, New York Times, Washington Post for not covering him. Because we supposedly have a free press in this country. That means reporting everything, both sides. Not for me. I'm not looking for publicity. This thing could have gone away 8 weeks ago. And think about it, one other thing. The Obama campaign is such a well-oiled machine. They have people sitting at computers all day long watching blogs. And if they see, if I would happen to say, hypothetically, because I'm not saying, that Obama looked cross-eyed yesterday, immediately someone would get on and say, Phil, you need new glasses or something. He obviously isn't cross-eyed. If McCain says something that he doesn't like, within 2-3 hours, the most a day, Obama's out there criticizing the remark that was made. I even was shocked one day. I saw a campaign video of McCain around 12 noon one day, and within 6 hours, the Obama people had made a new ad contrary to that and had it out on the TV air already. My suit's been up over 8 weeks. Other than the lawyers filing a motion to dismiss and a motion for a protective order, not one word. If I was off base 8 weeks ago, if a spokesperson for Obama should have came out and said, they didn't have to acknowledge me, some lawyer just filed a lawsuit. He's got 24 hours to take down that lawsuit, or we're going to sue him for millions of dollars for defamation. And by the way, here's Barack Obama's birth certificate. Notice they didn't say that. Notice they didn't do anything except they're hiding behind legalisms, which means one thing.